The tampon king gets back in the ring. I speak of former VP nominee Tim Walz. He joined Beto O'Rourke at a Texas town hall last night, and the estrogen levels were enough to give Chuck Norris menstrual cramps. I wonder, is our strength our diversity?
Our strength is our diversity. We've been talking about this for years as a country of immigrants, and we let them define the issue on immigration. We let them define the issue on DNI.
But I'm thinking there's only one explanation for Tim spewing nonsense like this. Time of the month.
What happens when a governor who still appears to be looking for his car keys faces off against a cocky TV host? Greg Gutfeld cuts Tim Walz like a thin cardboard figure thrown into a violent hurricane, tearing him into confetti. Gutfeld twists Minnesota's supposed leadership into a stand-up performance that resembles a national TV demolition derby more than a discussion, focusing on failed ideas and ugly political theater. Every punchline lands harder than the last. And this takedown burns hotter than Walz' frozen approval ratings, leaving nothing but smoldering devastation in its wake. Don't blink.
Walz continues to be criticized for embellishing his rank in service. After it came out over the weekend, he once claimed to be an official bikini inspector. Walz's direct superior in the National Guard says Walz knew his unit was about to deploy to Iraq and went behind the back of his superior officer to resign. When reached for comment, Walz yelled, "Hey, look over there," and then ran away. Although Walz's actions look bad to veterans, Dems say these revelations could really help him win the coward vote.
Tim Walz he would be the bland mashed potatoes that no one liked but were nevertheless placed on the dish if political leadership were a buffet. He sits there, bland, useless, and unavoidable, and everyone wonders who invited him. Then, in storms. Greg Gutfeld ripped through Walz' innumerable mistakes with the speed and accuracy of a comedian on overdrive. Sarcasm swinging like a chainsaw inside a pyrotechnics factory. This isn't the rule. It's performance art of the second kind. It's more like finger painting with ruined mayonnaise than the brilliant kind. Cringeworthy, messy, and, in the worst possible way, unforgettable.
Exploited his military background to cover up his crime. He said it was related to his service, and that he actually wasn't drunk. He just misheard the instructions in the drunk test. He blew a super high level. It was like, 0.2, driving 100 miles an hour. And then when he's running for office, he said that he wasn't drunk. I mean, this guy has creep written all over it. He created a snitch line, but lies about his personal infractions. He doesn't even own up to it. This is a guy who pushes a hoax about a sex on a couch, and then the closer you look at him, he's a creep.
It's like seeing a substitute teacher futilely attempt to manage a classroom full of caffeinated raccoons that are jumping off the walls when Tim Walz is in charge of Minnesota. He speaks like a man who concluded it was the whole playbook for his life after skimming a leadership for dummies in an airport gift shop. Oh, and the execution is perfect. Walz should win an Olympic gold medal for failure. If the goal was to turn the land of 10,000 lakes into the land of 10,000 every action seems more like a crash course in anarchy than leadership.
Recently, Donald Trump's executive order to make it more difficult, specifically to women, trying to make it more difficult for women to be able to vote. We see one of the first things they do is try and restrict the vote.
Wait, so Trump is making it more difficult for women to vote? How so? Math problems? But it's further proof that the most dangerous thing for a leftist is a follow-up question, which is why you never hear any. But I guess questioning elections is okay now. But the best moment came when Walz forgot who he...
Greg Gutfeld didn't have to exert much effort. Dunking on a man who wears Crocs to a job interview while wearing a blindfold is akin to roasting Tim Walz. It seems as though Walz entered the debate stage with just a kazoo and a whiteboard that read feelings written on it, presenting Gutfeld with a roast platter designated extra crispy. He virtually pleaded for it before leaning in and whispering, "Go for the kill." It's no longer even parody at this point. It's sarcastic warfare of the highest caliber. And Walz, who is totally out of his league and ready to be torn to pieces, showed up like a bewildered child at arts and crafts with just a participation ribbon and glitter glue.
Strange.
Oh, he's strange.
He is strange. Him and I are the same age. How does he look so much younger?
No, he's a strange guy.
Strange.
You know, he called up years ago. I was in the White House, and he said, my house is being surrounded by people with American flags. I said, is that a good thing or a bad thing? He said, I think they're going to attack me. This was during the riots and everything else. They were MAGA people. You know, they like the American flag, all right? And they also had Trump. And I said, how do you know? There were about 15,000, he said, could you put out a word like that I'm your friend? I don't even know him, but that's the only time I ever spoke to him. And if you look back long ago, tweets, before Truth, tweets, long ago, I put out a statement, he's a good man, the governor. He's on our side. I didn't know him, but I didn't want him to get hurt. And everybody put down their flags and they left. Yes. He said it was America.
Gutfeld is busy making comedy out of crime statistics in the meantime, essentially displaying a map of Minnesota with carjackings marked all throughout the Twin Cities. He likened Walz's crime plan to a mall police officer using only a clipboard and a kazoo to quell a riot. Laughable and hopeless. By next week, the nation would be brushing up on Russian if Walz were in charge of national security. Education followed, a sparkling dumpster fire if ever there was one. Walz, who was formerly a teacher, somehow came to the conclusion that schools ought to be converted into woke word salad workshops. Ignore science and math. Today, children receive scores for identifying microaggressions and creating safe havens with popsicle sticks. Gutfeld set it on fire rather than merely making fun of it. The art of being offended is the only exam that students are acing. He joked, under Walz, schools resemble poorly executed plays rather than educational institutions. There is no longer any detention. As academics disappear into thin air, participation prizes and TikTok therapy sessions have taken its place.
On the same bad cocaine, but Kamala can't speak, he can't speak, Biden was so high he couldn't remember anything. Like, this is literally the dumbest administration of all time. Why is he talking?
It really is the ultimate clown show. And I said this in the pod. He's a clown without a circus.
He doesn't even need makeup.
He's roaming the terrain. Is there some carnival that I could work for?
Yeah.
I'll watch your windows.
He's a rogue clown.
Yes.
Who is just an inconsequential footnote to vice presidential history.
Yes.
No one will remember his name on trivia night, and that's going to be in 3 months.
Not to mention the COVID disaster. Tim Walz pretended that the pandemic was his huge test to become the next great autocrat in America. He turned everything off, locating churches in the ground and dragging bar owners to court. Protests, however, were suddenly necessary. The malware apparently had a political filter. Who could have known? Gutfeld ate up that contradiction, pointing out how the streets were left free for protests yet fences blocked grandma's bingo night. As long as someone was carrying a paper and machete puppet while yelling Marxist slogans, public health wasn't that. It was clipboard-wielding political theatrics. The budget surplus followed. Minnesota had so much spare money that even Walz couldn't deny it existed. However, he spent it like monopoly money at a government rummage sale, rather than returning it to taxpayers. The very people who earned it. More diversity consultants, more bureaucracy, and perhaps even a taxpayer-funded painting of him looking forward like a would-be politician.
Especially talking about these old white guys who seem to disappoint us on a regular basis in this country.
Dude. You're an old white guy. And you're right, you are a huge disappointment. I guess hating himself is the first thing he's nailed correctly. Because Walz saying old white men suck isn't a political stance, it's his confession. Walz calling people old and white is like Maxine Waters making fun of someone for shopping at Wigs R Us. He wants to execute more DEI policies, and Trump wants to execute murderous gang members. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen.
Gutfeld laughed so hard at the irony that he almost passed out. Walz's extravagant spending was like giving a youngster a credit card and ordering him to only buy necessities. He said, the Department of Overregulation clearly required an executive yoga vacation and a beautiful espresso machine in the name of equity. So sure, Tim, red tape has become a full contact sport thanks to Walz. Even operating a lemonade stand in Minnesota requires a pronoun declaration, 14 permits, and a background check. Its Soviet-style leadership masquerading as stylish branding somehow produces worse outcomes. It was flawlessly painted by Gutfeld, like he's trying out for an Olympic-level bureaucratic gymnastics competition. Walz is wriggling and twisting through policy. Each maneuver is more ridiculous than the last. Then there's his strange fixation on Gavin Newsom. Like a Starbuck fanatic, Walz clings to California's governor, desperate to make Minneapolis into San Francisco's clumsier, colder cousin, and failing miserably.